What is art that's not art? A concept or expression introduced in a manuscript entitled All Is Not All from the year 2011. Historically, that is what it is. For more insight into this apparent contradiction, perhaps paradox, let's have a read, maybe with pauses here and there that we might draw out the more relevant points. Section 12, art that's not art. At this point, I've made the fateful decision to encrust my work with footnotes. But I have supposedly forsaken aesthetics for efficiency. I've already made that decision, so no problem adding the footnotes, ruining the writing. I've told myself to put aside perfection, that good enough is good enough. Sure. That the goal is not to create a beautiful work, but to synthesize my thoughts over the past 2 years well enough so that I can move beyond them. I think there are two options at this point: that this draft really becomes just a draft, or that merits hidden to me now will later become apparent, such that this work, which patently denies its intent toward art, becomes art. Historically, we've seen countless cases of stories in which the main character, an artist, expressed his contempt of art, his suspicion that art was not the way to live. The young Aschenbach comes to mind. Furthermore, the incantations of art achieve merely beauty, not power. But as we claim in writing to reject art, our rejection itself attains a sort of art. So rather than l'art pour l'art, our credo is art that's not art. I perhaps am overly optimistic, considering the inelegance of style so far, not to mention my difficulty in even remembering the basic intuition behind my concepts. The question really is whether relegating this version to official draft status would achieve anything, since the crux of my writing is really the associative runs. I make on a sudden that surprise even myself. I don't understand that. Maybe a typo there. I make on a sudden, it's a sentence. Since the crux of my writing is really the associative runs that I make on a sudden that surprise even myself. Associative runs, or simply digressions, cannot be rewritten. Anyway, enough chatter. Let me finish the unfinished book. Is that last sentence really necessary? Probably not. The writer is, of course, unwilling to delete anything. He's convinced that it's the job of the spectator to extract the imagined sculpture from the hunk of marble. So I'm just going to throw this hunk of marble at you, mixed with a kind of sculpture that I've worked on. You can see a trace of an arm, a trace of a leg, maybe a nose coming out of the rock, but the onus is on you, O critic, O spectator, to finish my sculpture for me. And it's your fault if you don't co-create this magnificent form. a paraphrase, of course, of the mentality of the writer at that time, about 12 years ago. I'm going to go to the top. And you can see some footnotes at the bottom of this page, scientifically inexact, but semantically sufficient. I'm not sure to what that refers. Number 13, for now, a particle being in two places at once. Still under the spell of physics. Still convinced, yet trying to deny, that the science of physics, whether relativity or quantum mechanics, is philosophically essential to the laws of motion of objects or particles through some medium called space are of critical importance in the philosophical endeavor, which thus has to be perhaps the creation or recreation of cosmos, a spatial totality. Footnotes are bad is the first premise. But number two, footnotes are necessary to just start writing, or really to continue writing when you were afraid to start, to simply get on the stage naked spiritually and to perform. Thirdly or fourthly, footnotes become necessary in a mid or later stage of the writer's life when the compulsion to self-correct is almost overwhelming, such that you can barely start, you can barely continue. You have to put your voice or your body into such a fluid state. Fluid in the sense that you are in motion, totally warmed up. You accidentally rhyme or alliterate. You hit a rhythm, almost musical, as you write. Unless you reach the state, which modern psychologists will probably call flow or something like that, the mode of higher productivity. Unless you've hit that state, you don't think the work, the output is really good enough. But later when you revisit it, you don't really notice that much of a difference between writing you're totally satisfied with, that you're ready to go out in Times Square and shout, "Eureka, I'm a prophet." It doesn't really make that much of a difference what you wrote inspired versus uninspired. So what does that tell us? That probably, and I'm saying probably because I'm restricting the generalization, I'm also a compulsive self-corrector. Okay, back to that. Probably the content of what's being presented is the chief determinant of the quality of the writer, or another compulsive self-correction coming. So in a later video on speaking, I would say cut out the or if you speak a sentence, delay that or, introducing the paraphrase, maybe even cut it out. So footnotes are bad in aesthetic. We're not writing that great of a book. The output's going to be bad, but the outcome might be okay. I transcend this current mental milieu. I put it onto paper, as though the thoughts or the system of thoughts put onto paper is a kind of self. So the seemingly philosophical text is a self-portrait. Once you see the self-portrait, however, you're no longer that person. You could argue thus by writing inesthetic works, bad outputs, that you evolve faster, achieve metamorphosis, and so on. And hopefully you're more powerful by being more aware Of what? Of ticks, of mistakes, premises? It's hard to say. The goal is not to create a beautiful work, but to synthesize my thoughts, just the thoughts that found themselves in my paper notebooks over the past 2 years well enough so that I can move beyond them. Now, what does beyond refer to? It's a preposition, but to move beyond, it refers to some kind of transcending, overpowering. So art that's not art, art that's not art. The point is to write a work that benefits your psychological transformation. Even if that work, as you judge it at the time, is incomplete, like an unfinished symphony, or you violate various principles that you closely held to. For example, at one point, maybe 10 years or 8 years for writing this manuscript, I would vehemently oppose adding footnotes. Why? Because that is what academics do. And academics are generally some kind of the straw man forms some kind of enemy to the true philosopher, or the inspired artist, prophet, however you want, whatever names you want to use. We're talking about some contention between types of human beings, even in the same society, that at least compete, maybe only with difficulty coexist. So adding footnotes, that's what academic writers do or have to do when they write papers, theses, and so on. And now, how would you avoid writing footnotes? You would either naively just write really well, or you would make an attempt to weave the content of the footnote into the presentation itself, either as the next sentence, as on a paragraph, as the next section, or you would delete the whole thing and rewrite the whole thing, the whole section at least, start again with the objection in mind in the footnote. If the footnote isn't a refutation of everything that you've put so many years of effort into, darn it. But that's sunk cost in business. Maybe knowledge of the fallacy would help you earn great wealth in the future rather than defend what you have. Not sure what is really necessary to add. And I keep on saying this. Art that's not art. It appears to be a contradiction. Whoever says that proposes really a new kind, the subclass or the concept that rejects the former main predicate deciding membership in the concept. For example, the set of artworks is a set of all things beautiful. But I introduce another conflicting predicate that art is a process. It's something that the artist does to achieve a self-transformation, to change who he is, not so much about the what produced as the new who that arises from this furnace of creativity. Or just a disappointment with the work, but it's an attempt to accelerate. It's an attempt to achieve the wisdom or knowledge you might have later just by raw accident or evolution. Just like someone who goes to France eventually learns to speak French without much knowledge of methods that might accelerate the acquisition. A new who is also like a new when, introduces a new era. Is it problematic also that the writer invokes art singularly, as though it were a monad, a concept with one member, so that the distinction between concept and member is rather blurry? Kind of like the advent of the monotheistic God out of the formerly plural concept gods. Historically, because of monotheism, to invoke any concept singularly may also implicitly assign a very high value to the thing, even if one is publicly an atheist, or at least one who does not speak openly of the gods or higher value things of another world as opposed to this one. He may accept no gods, one world, that is, universe given by physics or physicists. Art that's not art is an example of self-alienation. Self-alienation of a concept points to a numerical reconstitution of that concept. If art was formerly singular, saying this contradiction at least makes it plural, if not dual. New art is not old art. What you said to be art, you critics, is not what I say to be art, but it is art. It is the main kind. For your kind of art to be art, the mere production of beautiful objects, that is what needs qualification. My kind of art will be the default that doesn't need to be distinguished from other brands or other kinds. It's the main or the default. So it's a struggle for power. The young artist wants to dominate the root of art if art invites multiple kinds, not just sculpture, architecture, music, literature, but different kinds or different ways to determine whether something, whether some work or some working qualifies as art or not. In this book, we don't consider the case of the number of the concept, but I want to say that numerical reconstitution of an important concept is also very important. In your own works, or just your notes, you may see repeatedly numerical reconstitutions of concepts in different places at different times that are nonetheless the same. Why do we care? Because I want to synthesize my thoughts, achieve some kind of summary. The first step is rejection of total uniqueness and innovation across times and across manuscripts. In corporate terms, we want to close out duplicates or achieve deduplication. Finally, if you are or were a writer and your main problem was excessive production, lack of ability to really market your thoughts because you can't summarize, because you can't relate to the people to whom you might summarize them, you can use anyway numerical analysis and just thinking about philosophical operations. In this case, making a concept plural or dual It's not finally, though. Remember that terms or nouns have key aspects like gender in the Romance languages and also German, the question kind. For example, decision refers to which or whether. Wealth refers to how much. Space probably refers to where, but can also be how much as well. How much space do you have? How much room? And the numerical kind. Beauty invoked singularly would be a monad. Typically, one doesn't say beauties, referring to standards. Typically, standards, as invoked in natural language, want to be singular, but by wanting to be singular, they want to confound or confute, nonetheless, other standards. Voila.